finding inputs and outputs of a function from its graph. Of course, we've been talking about the domain and range, and the domain being the x value, the range being the y value, and we've talked about the fancy name for y, which in this example is g of something. And so in order to best solve this one's a little bit, you almost have to think of it a little backwards when you're working on this. So what I recommend is you make a t-chart like I have here. Okay, label it x and y, or your fancy name for y. In this case, it's g of whatever we're going to have. Okay, so one of the first things they've done is they've got this graph, which looks really cool. And we need to find g of -2. Now remember, whatever is inside the parentheses, that's our x value. Okay, so we're going to put -2 here. Okay, just so that way we can kind of see what we've got going. And then it says g of x equals -2. So in other words, whatever our x was, our y was -2. So we're going to put our -2 here. Okay, everybody kind of following me here? So we've got this -2 because it's inside the parentheses as our x, and this one happens to be our y. Remember, this is our fancy word for y, equals -2. So we're putting our -2 here. And we've got to find the corresponding, or the relationship to each of these. And so we're going to start with x first, and x is -2. So that means we're going to go to -2 on our graph, on our x-axis. So remember, this is our x, and this is our y-axis. And we're going to go to -2, which is right here. And we need to go to where the graph is. So if you notice, we have to kind of go up, and right here at -2 is where we hit the graph, and the number that corresponds with that is 1. So we see that? So here's our -2. We went up to our graph, our line, and then here's our 1. So we're going to put our 1 right here. Okay, so we found the answer for this one. Next, we're going to go to our y. So our y is -2. So we're going to go down to -2. Okay, so here's our -2. And we need to go over and find the values based on the graph. So we've got one right here. I'm going to kind of put a dot so we can kind of see it. And if you notice, we can actually keep going, and we actually have a second value. You see that? So we've got -4 as an answer. And we also have, it looks like -1 as an answer. Okay, so there are times where you will have 2 answers. Now, for this topic, Alex only needs 1. So for our first one, it says g of -2. Okay, so that was our x. Remember, this was our x. So that means this answer is 1. Okay, and so for this one, where it gave us, see, it gave us the -2 as the answer, we needed to find out what the x was. So the x in this case is either -4 or -1. And this is where you'll choose. It doesn't matter which one you put in. Alex will accept either one. So assuming that you've entered it correctly and you've got the negative sign, because remember it is a -4. So you can go ahead and press -4, and then you are done with this particular example. But I would recommend that you make sure that you create the chart and take your time with this topic. Okay, because it is a little bit backwards. You have to be very careful as you're looking at the graph and making sure that you understand what they're looking for. Okay, again, if it's g of x, that means your y equals something, so you're finding the x's. Finding My brain's processing too fast, I guess. And then this one, of course, this was our x. We're needing to find the y. Find the y.